Hey, what is going on, you guys? My name is Rayge, and we are back today with a Dark Dimension 7 preview, especially with the recent blog post yesterday. I wanted to give you my thoughts as well as how to prepare beforehand, especially with this announcement. Super exciting. We were expecting this typically with every preview, and obviously this is going to be some time, but Mephisto was officially announced as the unlocked character, as well as them even adding and twisting it up with a curveball with the mythic trait. So definitely something for us to consider, but I mean, always exciting time, guys. They need to be providing these challenges for us because this is how they paint the roadmap for us as players, goals to look forward to in the future. But as well, guys, if you're called from my Dark Dimension 6 run, I was free to play and unlocking top 1500 rank in my first run through, and one of the only content creators that actually brought Baby Apocalypse all the way through. To prove my point, right, is that I was very curious, first of all, if I can get it done, and then secondly, what would the time difference be if I was able to do that as opposed to unlocking big Apocalypse all the way and then going through. So ironically enough, guys, if you haven't checked out my videos, I'll definitely provide some links below and some previous videos I've made, but it was interesting to find that going through all the way and focusing on Dark Dimension 6 actually allowed me to unlock Super Scroll before I could fully upgrade my big Apocalypse, who's still, by the way, not upgraded on my account, just because there's always something happening in the game with events and so forth, and again, unfortunately, he's just taking a back seat. But I'm not really missing out on much, to be quite honest, just because I've been sitting comfortable in top 10 arena with Super Scroll ever since, and been milking those power cores and building up my account. But as you guys can see here, yeah, top 1500 rank, my TCP was only 30 million, so I wanted to at least share my wisdom and knowledge of how I'm going to prepare for Dark Dimension 7 now, just because it is one of the there's many game modes I obviously care about, but this is definitely one of the favorites and fan favorites as well. It's the the fantasy team that you can build to bring up all the way, and I love the fact that they have now added a different variation to it with the mythic infusion. So let's get right to it, guys. From my past experiences in the previous Dark Dimensions anyways, it makes sense, right? Past character investments that do make sense for your roster, as well as how we built them up. Don't bring up, it's unfortunate because if you want to be efficient and getting a decent ranking, but as well being able to go through it smoothly, you have to plan in advance, and past character investments that make the most sense for your roster, and as well as what value they're going to be giving to your account. Gear tier 19 is likely going to be the next bottleneck, so it's something we have to be on the watch for, how this is going to get released, right? Because that ultimately could be how we restrict players from getting into Dark Dimension 7 in the first place. But will this be in the way of Doom incursion rates? That remains to be seen. Maybe even the new game modes that are announced for next year. It's definitely something we need to keep an eye out for. But from my own personal experience, I did find that the gold and training mats were pretty pivotal to getting through into Dark Dimension 7. I mean, yes, the Gear Tier 18 requirement was pretty steep, but in order to buy those pieces in the supply store, you needed gold. And as well, you need it in a competitive alliance. So I mean, if you guys are in the lower level alliances watching this video and you're going through, Dark Dimension 3 or Dark Dimension 4 right now, it could very well be quite some time. Just because I found that with my alliance, we were in the top 200 most of the time, and we were not landing in that top 1 to 2% spot for those epic orbs. But now they've opened that up, so it's definitely a better opportunity now to get those materials. But I suspect with every new Dark Dimension, they usually do a similar experience, but just something to be watching for guys. And keep in mind too, some of the best players in the game, some of the biggest whales in the game, they get access to Dark Dimension 7 just due to how heavily built the roster already is. So, obviously taking in and looking at how they're doing with different team synergies is going to make sense. I did the same, of course. We have that track record to follow, and I do love the fact that they do keep that on history for us, so that way we can go back and review. And guys, lastly, no stress, don't fret about this yet. We have time, typically the Dark Dimensions are released every, a second quarter of the following year. So we have till at least May or June to see this come about, and there's new game modes coming, so that's going to keep us busy. But we got quite some time to start planning ahead, hence my video here, at least half a year, right? So it's something to be mindful of, guys. I mean, there's no rush for anything, obviously, but we need to start having that kind of mindset if we are interested in this game mode. And keep in mind, this is a game mode that unlocks the best character in the game, but it is also not alliance driven, right? This is kind of a personal event in your account that you'd be interested in. I know for myself personally, when I was doing my Dark Dimension 6 progress, I definitely took a hit on my raid teams just because I was focused more on Dark Dimension than my raid team. So I did have to take a little bit more of a backseat role in my raids, but that's after, thankfully, most of my teams have already been built up, so that was really good. Now, guys, having said that, and I want to touch on this a little bit more with the new trait that they're adding in Dark Dimension 7, but as well as kind of what the certain locks will be already. Now, what was valuable about Dark Dimension 6 was it really brought to us, some of the best characters in the game, and the best of the beautiful thing about this is most of the newer characters that they've been releasing haven't been too far out of stretch from a material resource standpoint, as in they've been pretty reasonable to build up, moderate or even low requirements in terms of the number of unique pieces, but as well some of the larger and heavier characters in the game for requirements aren't some of the best. So I can, it's a great way to utilize some of the value you've already built on Dark Dimension 6 characters. And if you haven't started Dark Dimension 6, this is a great shout out to these characters, and if you guys are interested, these characters are going to be playing a big factor if you bring them in. So obviously with Dark Dimension 7, the setup is that it starts off with any trait characters. Then they add this new city infusion where there's non-mythic and non-legendary characters allowed. So again, they gave us a list of the non-mythic. Essentially, the mythic characters are basically every character that's unlocked through Dark Dimension plus Kestrel, essentially, right? And then as well as Ultimus. So all of them are going to be not allowed, but as well, not having this non-legendary trait is going to make things even more interesting. So, but thankfully, City section, it got revitalized quite a bit with the Sinister 6 rework. Robbie Reyes, 2099 Spider-Man, and Vulture are going to crush it still. They're doing really, really good in Dark Dimension 6. So I cannot see that failing. And the beautiful thing is that they're all really cheap resources as well. Something to be mindful of. We will need to start thinking about the number of resources, but as well as the trait for each character, so that way you're not double dipping on these origin traits. Global, I think Black Widow and Captain America still is going to be strong considerations, and that's why I wasn't concerned about bringing Captain America up, even with Reaper falling off the board, because he's still a very good character. He's still a staple tank, providing defense up, energy. I don't think that's going to change, and he's moderately cheap. But could that change if there's a better bio character or global characters being released? Absolutely. I think Spider Weaver is definitely going to be one of the main locks now, especially now that we don't have Apocalypse being accessible for the global section. She does great amount of damage. She can provide protection. She has a stun. Definitely something to consider for sure. Cosmic, easy locks, Val, Kang, Photon, all of them being moderately cheap, great materials and resources, and Val especially being the MVP for that, being able to revive the team is huge. And then we have Legendary, and you know what? Thankfully, with all the recent updates, the Legendary section is probably going to be one of the most interesting because there's just so many good characters now. And I do like the fact that it does include Horseman as well, but I think from a value standpoint at this point, with Gear Tier 19 being the bottleneck, Black Cat, Omega Red, Gobby, they're so cheap. And same with Phoenix as well, especially if we're suspecting that this new X-Men rework in the future is going to impact a larger scale, similar to what we saw with Sinister 6. Past investments into Phoenix, this might very well make sense, so something to be mindful of. And then finally, guys, we have the mythic characters here, being Apocalypse, Doom, Kestrel, Nova. Nova should have been in the legendary, cross them off. And then Super Skrull. I think Apocalypse, Doom, Kestrel, Skrull, they're easy locks right there. Nova you can include in the legendary section above. It must have just been a typo there, guys. Apologies. But overall, legendary and mythic's not looking too bad. But I suspect with the number of characters and teams being available, it's going to be definitely a harder Dark Dimension than we've seen. So lastly, guys, I want to leave with you the Dark Dimension Planner. I mean, this is on MarvelStrikeForce.com, where you log in, click on your account, roster, and Dark Dimension Planner. The reason I point this out is because this was really my navigation in terms of, you can see, especially in the chart above, summarizing the number of bio, mutant, mystic, skill, and tech characters. It gives you opportunity to see where you're kind of lacking or where there's opportunity to add certain characters of that trait, and that's going to ultimately help you plan in advance, right? This helps set the stage and kind of dictating, how is this going to progress as I bring these characters up. And be mindful that, again, guys, Dark Dimension is not everything, but it's an exciting game mode that's going to provide an opportunity for one of the best characters in the game, and I'm a huge fan of that. So again, guys, really appreciate you following along my journey. I'm still doing my second run right now, but yeah, again, I just want to share what worked for myself. I'm going to be applying the same methodology and strategy to Dark Dimension 7 and keep you guys up to date as we hear more information. But always appreciate your time. Let me know what you think below in comments. And again, I'll link some videos below if you guys are interested in seeing some analysis. Thank you as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.